Hey, I'm Wes the Explosion, and now that ZX Timelines has been released, we're finally allowed to have the Mega Man Legends issue as well. I've always really liked the writing for Legends, so I've been looking forward to this one, though at the same time, this is also the series that I'm the least familiar with lore-wise. I just beat the second game for the first time last year. Because of this, I'm a little worried that I won't be as insightful as I was with some of the other books, but still. I'd at least like to think I'm a good enough judge of writing that I can give an overall opinion on it. So let's give the book a look, see whether it's worth the $5, and maybe pick out a few clever references as we wrap up our look at the Udon's collection of one-shots. The issue is written by David Oxford, who's done stuff for the Mega Man Network, the Robot Master Field Guides, and his own Legends fan works, so they definitely picked someone who knew their stuff for this one. The artist is Mick Fong, who also did the main cover, and as you can probably tell, I'd say compared to the games, the characters look softer and cuter, a bit rounder. Of course, the original games have a lot of polygons, so maybe that should go without saying. With them having the ability to smooth out the edges like this, there were a few styles they could have gone with, but for what it's worth, I quite like it. We have a total of 5 covers for the issue, give them a look if you're interested, though I'm told that cover D is a favorite among Transformers fans. Though going back to the main one, we once again get our main character standing in front of a 9-square boss select. Though since Legends doesn't have a standard boss roster per se, we get the 3 Bond siblings and the rest are Serbots. While they could have gone with some of the Bond's mechs or other pirates from the second game, I kinda like this direction. The Bonds are one of the main draws for the series, and that includes the Serbots. There being so many of them, all similar but with their own personalities, are one of their charm points, so filling in the gaps with 6 of them, I think mostly based off of various pieces of official art, is a cute way to get this across. And to wrap up the credits, colors are by Espen Grundenchern, and lettering by Marshall Dillon. As for the actual story, this is an original little misadventure taking place between the first and second game. It largely focuses on a tussle with the Bonds over some treasure, so the same sort of thing you'd get in the game, at least until you get to the massive lore dump at the end. There's also some callbacks to the previous Timelines issues. As long as you played the first game, even if you haven't completely beaten it, you'll have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Heck, even if you don't know much about the series, there's still some fun to be had here. All you need to know is that Mega Man and Roll explore underground ruins for treasure from lost civilizations, and the Bonds are pirates and rivals to the main characters, and you could even use this to gauge whether you'd be interested in the games or not. Them referencing the past issues is probably the part that would be weirder, since, if you've been sticking with these one-shots, it's a fun look back, reminding you of how far you've come, and if you haven't, it'll probably come across more as them advertising to you. If you're exclusively a Legends fan, you might feel put out. I don't know, maybe this isn't that big of a deal, though I would be interested to hear the feelings of someone who only got this issue. Though I will say, with that element taken out, this otherwise feels pretty on brand for the series. Though to summarize the full thing, could only find one preview page for this again, also big spoilers ahead, skip to the final thoughts for the thumbs up or down if you need. Mega Man heads into a ruin, with Roll spotting for him, and after blasting some Reaverbots, finds an amazing treasure. Turns out it's our Met friend that's been showing up since Classics issue. Roll doesn't have the tech to fix it on the Flutter, so they head to Catalux Island and ask Mayor Amelia for help. She grants them the use of their ancient technology archive, and with it, Roll's able to access the Met's memories, us getting a glimpse at 4 panels from the previous Timeline issues, featuring each of the main characters. They also get a recording of CL talking about an energy system, and they question whether this couldn't be a way to learn how to make refractors. Before they can watch further, Tron busts in with the Gustav and her Serbots and demands the treasure. While she argues with Mega Man and Roll, one of the Serbots yoinks the Met and the Bonds retreat while collapsing the hole they made. They then join up with T-Soul, though their ride's been impounded, so they're unable to escape and Mega Man and Roll catch up. We then get a scuffle over the helmet, featuring the bulk of the cast, including Data, Roll in the support car, and even King Serbot. It's several pages of slapstick, but all good things must come to an end, the Met going over a cliff and having a boulder dropped on it. The Bonds give up and go home, though Mega Man and Roll are determined and retrieve the little guy, fixing him back up at the archive. It turns out that there wasn't anything useful in the recording, though while Roll is disappointed, she perks back up with some encouragement from Mega Man, and when the two turn back to the table, the Met is gone. We get one more shot of it happily skipping along, a shot of all 5 Timelines heroes looking on from the horizon. Okay, now with my more limited knowledge of Mega Man Legends, I will attempt to break things down. We start off with one box that says, The Future, the Far Future, which Legends is at the end of the timeline, and I think has the biggest span of time between it and its predecessor, so this is very appropriate here. After that, we get another one that says, "In a world covered by endless water," which is also how they start the title screen synopsis on the first game. And because we're still not finished with the first panel, Roll says, "Good luck, Mega Man!" And when loading a file in the first game, Roll does say good luck. I actually thought it was Good Luck Mega Man. I swear I have a vivid recollection of the full thing, but replaying my own streams, I'm only getting good luck. Moving on, we get 3 different types of Reaverbots: Harako, Furu, and Canum, and Mega Man's wearing his helmet with his bangs hanging out the front. That's how he's portrayed in the second game. Maybe his hair grew a bit, or maybe they just wanted to add details later on, but back on the Flutter, Professor Barrel also seems to be missing, him being off on his own business at the start of Legends 2, so both of these elements further indicate that this takes place between titles. Not that this could happen after 2. The Met they bring back still has the patch, the original Mega Man used to repair it in his Timelines issue, and Roll comments on how she's never seen anything like this before. Come to think of it, Legends is the only series not to have Mets, assuming we count some of those Cyber Elves, and I was kinda wondering how the little guy would be used here given that omission. We also get a shot of a globe, which admittedly has more green than I would have expected, though that does pique my curiosity. Anyway, again, because we're between games, they're still close to catalogs, we get a panel with the mayor's office and an actual appearance of Amelia, which was a pleasant surprise. Really nice to see her a little less polygonal. She mentions how the Science Center lost popularity to art, a reference to the Art Museum side quest in Legends 1. When Roll hooks up a bunch of wires to the Metar, we get a pretty good look inside the helmet, the underside actually being split between 2 materials to match the external damage. As for the memories we see, they feature Mega Man on Rush Jet, X standing beside Zero, Zero firing the Z-Buster, and Vent using Model FX, all pulled from panels from their respective actual Timelines issues, just with a grainy filter over them. The next figure shown is shadowy and the dialogue broken, but clearly it's CL talking about the CL system. They question whether what she's holding could be a refractor, whether this could explain how to make them, and if this could be considered the mother lode, which reminds me of how I only vaguely understand what refractors are. Sometimes sources of energy, sometimes currency, and wonder if there could be a connection to what CL was working on. I'm quite intrigued. This also reminds me of how vague the concept of the mother lode was back then. More or less the One Piece, a treasure with pretty much unlimited energy that could make the finder's dreams come true. We get a shot of Professor Barrel, I think a younger Blucher, some random diggers, and Roll's parents to remind us that they're still missing and she's still looking. Then Tron appears and we get the Misadventures of Tronbon version of the Gustav rather than the vs. Capcom one. There's another line that makes me wonder, Roll addressing Tron as Tronbon, her name bold, which felt weird to me. Though thinking about it, does Roll call her by her full name? Does she even know her full name? And then I remembered that I think the only time I've ever seen these two interact is at the very end of Legends 2, so I'm not really sure what Roll would call her. I trust the source, so I'm assuming this is accurate, and it feels like I'm learning a lot today. I also find it funny how Tron found out about their discovery by a passing Surbot overhearing 2 policemen joking about how Mega Man and Roll were acting like they found the mother lode, and I guess this was somehow compelling enough for them to check it out. Surbots are excitable, and it could have been a slow day besides, though. Tron offers to let Mega Man join their side, which is something she does pretty often in the games, and she even offers to let Roll come along as a maid, which is more generous than usual. I also like how she calls Roll his friend rather than girlfriend, like many would probably assume. Very shrewd, as is how she collapses the hole behind her when they snag the helmet, so that they can't follow right away. When Tron meets up with Teasel, he's actually wearing work clothes, a green suit and tie, hair back in a neat ponytail rather than his typical crazy one, with a pencil and clipboard, making him look like a proper warehouse manager. He's also got a hat that says Department Bond Group, it being mentioned that the Bonds tried to go straight by opening a department store between games, but it failed. The cap also has a logo that looks like the one they normally use, just less mechanical. I wonder if they thought that looked friendlier, or if it just looks so robotic because it was mostly used on robots. Anyway, we get a panel where Bon Bon is getting a ticket from Catalogs' police chief, so we get cameos from both of them. They comment on how speaking to Bon Bon is like talking to a baby, and despite his stature and all the stuff he's capable of, I believe he is somehow still an infant. All of his baboos would certainly lead one to believe that. I also think it's cute how they put a tire boot on their transport, which I think is able to fly, but I can't seem to find an entry on the Pack-a-Cell, so I'm not 100% sure. Deep cut. Anyway, then we get the fight for the Met, the Gustav seeming to have its machine gun arm, Mega Man using his jet boots, and everyone using a good number of puns. Teasel is sure to call Mega Man Blue Boy, his descriptor for him in the main series. While this is going on, Teasel also hands off a package to someone who appears to be the junk store man that you save at the beginning of the first Legends game, and it seems his name is... Mr. Spiegel? Huh. Though then again, I think I've also seen this character model used for a few other NPCs, so maybe it's just a random thing. We also get an appearance of Data, who doesn't talk, just waves pom-poms while saying "Ki-ki-ki." While he doesn't do much, just his little cheerleader dance, which I can probably guess the movements for before getting kicked into the battle and adding to the confusion, it probably would have felt weird if he didn't show up, especially since he got a dashboard cameo in the Zero issue. And just in case her offering to let Mega Man join her ranks didn't make her crush obvious enough, Tron blushes and gets flustered when he tries to grab the Met from the Gustav, her equating it with holding hands. She's even thrown off enough to get tongue-tied, them throwing in a pretty good drunk speak gag. Roll hits the Gustav with the support car, much like how she uses it to cover Mega Man at one point on catalogs, even going so far as to bust down a gate. When the car gets tossed aside, Roll busts out a buster, one that looks like the original Mega Man's, but if it were made out of a Pringles can, which... I'm not sure if this is a reference to a specific weapon, or just an acknowledgement to something that a lot of fans probably did as kids. The Servbots merge into King Kobun, King Servbot, complete with yellow and blue squeaky hammer, and... Can they do that? I thought that was only for crossovers. Is this canon or just fan service? Though Roll takes it out with the Grand Grenade, a name I recognize, but I avoid using that weapon in Legends because I prefer guns, and it also sounds like the sort of thing I could blow myself up with. When we get our last shot of them chasing after the Met, there's a crater with a busted Marlwolf. I remember rage quitting on this thing before having to return the game to the rental store once, so seeing this is a bit cathartic. This is the part where the helmet gets buried and the Bonds leave, though not without gags. Teasel asks Tron if she turned on the department store's alarm system. She says she asked the Servbot to do it, 20 specifically if you want to look him up, and it turns out he might have forgotten. The following panel probably gets the biggest eye raise for me since it shows a broken window at their store with the perpetrator appearing to be... Ground Scarovich? I have to be looking at this wrong because not only is the color scheme different, but that would be the most random inclusion in this entire line. Though until someone gives me a more convincing answer, that's what I'll go with. Is he really still around? Is this just a look-alike? Or am I not supposed to be questioning this too much? It's just a fun reference, like Otto showing up in Volt Catfish's intro. Anyway, they seem pretty disappointed by what's around to steal, which is likely a reference to how the Bond department store allegedly failed due to Teasel stocking it with mostly stuff that he liked, rather than what would actually sell. Having crap that not even a thief wanted is a pretty funny way to get this across. Anyway, back to Mega Man and Roll. On the table with the Met is Mega Man's drill arm weapon, also used in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Roll mentions how durable the Met helmet is, which makes sense given how it's typically invincible, though also kinda funny given how all this started with it being partially destroyed and needing a patch job. Though how else would we have recognized it without the visual quirk? When asked about the recording, Roll mentions how the Met wandered off before seeing the rest of CL's message, chasing a glowing butterfly or something, which I'm gonna guess was a cyber elf. When the Met dashes off this time though, it's chasing an actual butterfly. Also worth noting is how, when it shows Rock, X, Zero, Vent, and Volnut grouped together on the last page, only Rock and Volnut are smiling. Kinda says a lot about the tone of each of the others. This is also the only book to end with a fin rather than a to be continued, marking the end of at least the Timelines books, though we can maybe hope for more issues of individual series. The only thing I'm a little mixed on here is the Met. On one hand, as the only series without Mets, I do find the premise of them discovering and then fiddling with one pretty interesting, and the story on the whole feels very authentic for Legends. At the same time, other than the classic issue where it was introduced, the Met's presence has been pretty minimal. Removing it from any of the other issues really wouldn't change much, and them throwing in the other 4 characters to remind you that there's 4 other issues if you like this one, is a little distracting. As much as I enjoyed Legends Timelines, a part of me wonders if it wouldn't have been just a little bit better if it had been allowed to do its own thing and not shoulder the responsibility of tying everything together. Even with this caveat though, this might just be the best issue in the series. It was fun, felt true to the source material, and other than the callbacks to previous issues, I don't think there were any parts that leave new readers feeling like they were missing something. The wrap-up with the Met was probably also the reason why they absolutely had to wait for the other books to come out before this one, not just the stubborn adherence to timeline order. While I might put one of the other one-shots first due to personal bias, I think Legends is the one that deserves a full series the most. They just really nailed it. Of course, more than quality, it'll be sales to determine that, so new fans, old-timers, hell, even just comic book readers, this is a heavy recommend. I had high hopes for this one, and it did not disappoint. With that, we can wrap up. So, did you pick this one up? What did you think? And did I manage to sell anyone on the book? That'll do it for this week, so thanks as always for watching. Maybe consider subscribing if you're into retro games, especially Mega Man. Get me off the moon!